Today the 12 valve is getting all the love. This thing is made at 300,000 miles and it still runs and drives good, but there's a lot of little things that I want to fix in order to make it a good tow vehicle for my Cummins swap Land Cruiser. I've got hopefully Rubicon planned, maybe Moab this year, we'll see, but let's dig right into it. First thing I want to do is remove this awful damage multiplier style bumper. I don't know what you call it, ranch hand, whatever. I think it's called a Mr. Pickup. Anyways, this is super grandpa, want to get rid of it. We're gonna take this off, see if we can't shore up this bumper, make it look a little better. Next thing I wanna do is remove this bumper because we're gonna install some new headlights and it's getting in the way. And it's also got this dent in it that I'm gonna try and put in my press and punch out, but I don't know if that's gonna work. Either way, we're gonna take it off. Now we're gonna remove our headlights because these are old and tattered. These have a ton of oxidization and water's gotten in here, so these are the old halogen lights we're gonna be replacing with LED. These are our new headlight lenses and they have an LED running light and we're gonna be swapping out to LEDs, so let's make sure that they work and they're plug and play. Swap out our amber turn signal bulb, old LED amber signal, and old halogen low high beam light. New amber LED turn signal bulb, and new Auxito LED high low beam. Much better. Now I've read some of the reviews on these and it appears that they didn't apply any silicone to the top part of the housing here. So that means water's gonna get in here, gonna burn up bulbs and just have all sorts of issues. They did put some silicone on the top part of this amber LED turn signal section of the housing, but we're gonna go ahead and throw some clear silicone on this so we don't get any leaks. While I'm waiting for the silicone to cure, I'm gonna install these tow mirrors, and yes, these are the extendable tow mirrors that most Dodge drivers drive with them like this all the time, regardless of whether they're towing or not. But since I'm gonna be towing the Cummins swap Land Cruiser, this will give me the extra length that I need in order to see behind me and make sure that I haven't lost it. And it's gonna be 3 10mm bolts. And they actually provide a little backing plate that goes on the inside of the door here because the added weight of the mirror causes it to bend the door out if you don't have that plate. So there we go. Now we got tow mirrors. Silicone is cured for the headlight lenses, so this is a good seal, at least good enough for me. And we've got them installed on the truck. I think they actually look great. Sometimes LED aftermarket headlights look a little, well, I don't know what word I'm looking for, but not great. I do like the look of these. This horseshoe-shaped portion of the LED lens comes on with running lights, and the way I've done that is just by using a tap-a fuse in the fuse panel on an empty fuse inside the box here, so that when I put the key into the ignition and turn it on, they stay on constantly like any newer model truck would, and this kind of just gives it a nice freshen up, gives it a little bit more modern look to it. Then I've also installed the LED bulbs, and these are super bright. You can actually hear there's a little fan inside that LED bulb that comes on in order to keep it cool. And then here are the side amber running lights or slash parking lights that also act as turn signals. I think these look really cool. I don't think they're overpowering the look or the classic look of this 97 second gen, and turn signals work as well. So pretty happy with these. You can make a truck look as good as you want, but if it's not sound mechanically, then you're gonna have issues and you might not end up driving it. So we're gonna get underneath the truck and look at what type of wear and tear this thing has after 300,000 miles and do some preventative maintenance. Behind me here is the diff cover for this Dana 60, and it's the Dodge Dana 60 low pinion, honestly the worst one, but we wanna change the diff fluid. We wanna try and get 300,000 more miles out of this thing, and who knows what it's gonna look like, so let's check it out. Cleaned up the diff cover with a little wire wheel and some brake clean, as well as all of the mating surfaces on the axle itself. So we'll go ahead and put a gasket in and slap it together and put some gear oil in it. And we'll add some Mobil 1 75 weight 90 gear oil. I think it's about 3 quarts. After 300,000 miles, this thing's gonna have some leaks. I mean, there's just nothing you can do about it. But I found the main culprit. After several hours, I was able to get the P7100 injection pump out. It sits just behind the timing case, and unfortunately, this tappet cover, which is a very common issue on these, is gone. The tappet cover gasket is just knackered, so I'm gonna be replacing it with a billet tappet cover, and I'm gonna be clogging the ports, and here's why. This is made from billet aluminum. It's very stiff, and it's not gonna flex like the one on there now is. It's got 2 ports where the downdraft tube would normally go, and they come with these AN fittings. However, I'm just gonna be plugging these because I don't wanna vent the crankcase from this location, because what was happening is it was basically just venting through a downdraft tube back there right onto the front drive shaft. So this thing was just slinging oil everywhere. So much that the entire underside of this truck is just completely covered in oil all the way back to the rear differential. So we're gonna take care of that tappet cover. Well, this very quickly turned into replacing the front main seal as well as that tappet cover. So I figured while it's out, might as well do that. I'm also doing 3,000 or 3K governor springs, which I've just finished up on the second side. This is the stock spring set that comes in the P7100 P pump, and those only allow fuel up to about, I think, 2,800 RPM. I could be wrong. Anyways, installing these governor springs is going to get me a little more action higher in the rev range. You don't really want to overspeed a diesel, but figured while it's out, might as well do that. To finish up, I've also timed this P-pump to top dead center, and it's hard to see, but there is a little, what they call a flag. To me, it looks like a little tooth that goes in this cavity right here. And there is a pin that is housed inside this little cavity in order to line you up with top dead center. So now that we know that we're on top dead center for the pump, and we also know that we're at top dead center in the engine, the way I did it is using a barring tool. So I've got a 1/2-inch wrench going into the transmission, and that's moving the flywheel in order to get these gears lined up so that the camshaft and the crankshaft are timed together. The way I know that I'm at top dead center is there's a little pin back here. It's really hard to see, but that pin right now is out. I pushed it in, and there's a little notch on the back of the camshaft gear that it rides in. So that's how you know that you've timed both your engine and your pump. I also thought while I'm here, I'll do a quick little oil change, just using Costco 15 weight 40. I also want to take out the stock airbox because it's pretty restrictive. It's funny, Dirt Lifestyle just did a video on the same thing. We're actually doing kind of like this same project at the same time. But anyways, I'm gonna be installing the Spaylab cold air intake, which comes with its own box. But to do that, we're gonna have to take this intake off the turbo. So it's a simple 8mm. And we'll just take the latches off the air box and pull it out in one piece. There's nothing wrong with this filter. This filter is completely fine. But again, we want, first of all, turbo noises. Second of all, we want to be able to have something that's a little less restrictive than this OEM air filter. So we're going to keep our air box in case we don't like it, but I have a feeling we're going to like this Spaylab cold air intake. And you can kind of see there's a ton of dirt and debris in there. So this technically was doing its job on the underside because the filter passes through the bottom, but I want a cold air intake for the noises and being able to change it out quicker. Now on the 5.9 turbo, there is a little silencer ring, basically a C-clip inside, and you can see a little gap right there. So I'm gonna use a couple screwdrivers to pry that out. So this little ring right here quiets the turbo from factory, which I understand, but again, we want all the turbo noises. On the directions, they recommend using the old plastic pieces to secure the box into the fender. However, I just used some grade 8 hardware nuts and bolts going through the fender. I did have to take the fender off, the plastic part, to get underneath there, but I like the way this is secured a little bit better. They also provide you with the cone filter, which is very similar in terms of quality to a K&N, and this adapter piece is going to help it fit in nice and snug, and it has a hose clamp already. So let's put this in. All right, so we finished up, and I actually really like the way this looks. It's just using the stock configuration, but giving you a cold air intake, and they've even provided a bulb gasket to go around. So this will be really nice. Obviously, we'll have to change this more often because you're taking in air from the fender well area, but we like the noises. You can head over to SpaylabAutoparts.com to check out products like this and others for your 12-valve Cummins. Well, that ended up taking a lot longer than I expected. I had some issues with not putting the overflow valve on the right side of the P-pump and not getting fuel and all sorts of stuff. But anyways, it runs, and I'm really excited to try out the 3K governor springs as well as the new turbo noises. Another cool thing I've added is this, I guess it's from a 24 valve. It's a crankcase breather. It replaces your oil fill tube. So as you can see here, I've got that crankcase breather in the original location where the oil fill tube used to be, with a breather hose going over to a catch can that also has a steel wool filter, I guess what you call it. And the one on the right, the smaller hose, is the out going down into the wheel well and acting as a road draft tube. So that's gonna help some of the blow-by. If I ended up needing to get the valve cover breathers, if my blow-by is worse than I think it is now, then I will install those. I've also cut a hole in the beauty cap in order to fill, because I have this fill cap valve cover on there now. Now we're gonna start concerning ourselves with underneath the truck. It looks like our front pinion seal is good. Remember that all this oil is from that downdraft tube pointing pretty much directly at that pinion and flinging oil all over the place. So the next thing I want to do is change my transmission fluid. This is the NV4500, the same one that's in the Land Cruiser, and this one's covered in grease and oil as well. I'm going to loosen up one of these 15mm bolts, and that's going to allow it to drain. I'm interested to see what's in here. Oh, we didn't even need to change that. It looks brand new. This is another really cool product that I wanted to show. This is from 5.9 Fabrication, and it solves a problem that's catastrophic that I didn't even know I had. So this bolts to the bottom of the transmission cross member, and then this loop prevents your drive shaft from flopping around if it breaks. The first real issue is that from the factory, I mean, this is a low pinion Dana 60, and this truck is mildly lifted. I don't know if it's a lift kit or what it is, but low pinion, the same issue I'm facing with the Cummins swap Land Cruiser, and lifts do not like each other. So this is a dual cardan drive shaft coming from the transfer case going to our front axle, and that's great. However, the pinion needs to be pointed straight at the transfer case. I think we're relatively close. I'll get an angle finder and find out exactly if we're close, but the bigger issue is Dodge guys, or anybody who really has these trucks, usually neglect maintenance. And if you don't grease your U-joint, one or both of those can blow up, and then look what's sitting right next to it. The NV4500, the transfer case, the bell housing potentially. There's a lot of potential catastrophic failure points if this thing blows up, and it can even go through the floor. You know, it can cause bodily harm or injury. So what this drive shaft loop does is bolts into the bottom of this cross member. I don't believe I'm gonna have to support the weight of that cross member. It's just a skid plate, it looks like, is the two bolts that it'll go into. And then it wraps around that drive shaft so that if it does break right here, it's going to have a loop to stay in. So the transmission is now filled, and I go with Redline MT90. That's what this transmission calls for, because there are certain synchros that require this gear oil. So I've used this pretty much exclusively on all my NV4500s, and I've had great success just using a little hand pump that goes on top of this bottle here. So I ended up only taking 4 quarts. That may have something to do with the angle that we're on here. I considered taking the shifter assembly out and filling through the top, because you can get 5 quarts in that way, or even more. But if you get too much in there, then it starts frothing. And I just figured if it's coming out the fill plug, then that should be sufficient. We'll top it off as we go. I've also realized that my front drive shaft was just completely tattered. So I've gone ahead and removed the front drive shaft, because it was a Chinese brand apparently, according to the drive shaft shop, and I don't want the U-joints breaking and destroying things. The drive shaft loop will help, but I want to restore it while it's in there. I am noticing that I'm getting a little bit of ATF coming out of that front seal, coming out of the transfer case, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that yoke off and replace that seal while I'm in here and have the drive shaft off. While I'm waiting for my drive shaft to be made, I thought it would be a good time to address the paint and a little bit of the bodywork. The clear coat on the hood is pretty much non-existent, so I just kind of wiped it down and then added a couple of cans of clear coat, and it made it shine a lot more. I've also taken off all of these like chrome trim pieces from the side here, because the donor bed that I got does not have it. So right now I'm going through with a scraper, and yes, there is a ton of rust. Probably doing a cab swap eventually, but been using this really nice Icon scraper with a razor blade to get most of this off with some Goo Gone. On camera it actually shows up a lot worse, the 2 different colors, than in person, but this is the other side. I'm not going to really worry about this lower rocker panel area here. I do have a can of that green, but I went ahead and sprayed a paint matched color of this gray, and it's pretty close. Still need to do some more clear on it, but I'm happy with the way that turned out. It's really dull on the other side. You can tell that a lot of the metallic is gone. Here is the donor fender from the junkyard, still a good amount of clear coat. And then we go right into this really flat gray. So it is the same color, but definitely needs some more work. Hood has 1 can of clear coat. I'm gonna go ahead and do another can. It's looking decent. It's got a little more sheen to it, but yeah, just doing some light body work just to make it look a little bit nicer. Front end starting to look a little bit better, but not too bad for a $3,500 pickup and a good running truck. I've changed pretty much all the diff fluids as well as the engine oil and the transmission oil, so I thought it appropriate to replace the gear oil on this Dana 80. This is pretty cool, having a Dana 80 under a 2500 series chassis, and I'm just adding some 75 weight 90 here to refresh the rear diff. It ended up taking about 4 quarts. Well, today my drive shaft was finally completed by the Driveshaft shop, full torque drive shafts here in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. All the U-joints on here are brand new, and I fully trust them to rebuild all my drive shafts. And now that we have it installed, we can get a better look at this drive shaft loop from 5.9 Fabrication that'll give us extra insurance if it does break. Well, sometimes you pop on Facebook Marketplace at the perfect time, and this was one of those times. I was lucky enough to get these Method MR305s with Nitto Ridge Grapplers for $650, which I thought was a pretty spanking deal. So 285s come out to about a 33. Well, I can honestly say that after all that work, the truck drives so much better. Those 3K governor springs combined with that Speelab cold air intake make it sound amazing. That's gonna conclude this video, guys. Thanks for watching. If you're wondering why I left out the killer dowel pin, it's because I completely forgot, honestly. So I'll be installing that later when I adjust the timing, but if it hasn't gone bad this far into it with 300,000 miles, it should be all right. I did want to address why I haven't been uploading so often. It's because I've had my first son and we've had quite a bit of complications. So my wife's water broke at 19 weeks and she was admitted into the hospital in Spokane at 23 weeks back on March 3rd. And I was basically going over there every night after work and really didn't have any time to complete any of these projects that I want to. She ended up giving birth via emergency C-section at 30 weeks, and my son, Sebastian, has been in the NICU unit for the last 6 weeks. The good news is he is breathing on his own. They've taken the CPAP machine off of him, and he's doing really well. I generally don't post a whole lot of personal stuff on social media, but I thought that because I haven't been posting very often at all, I kind of owe you guys an explanation. In the next video, I'm going to be rebuilding the steering box on the Cummins swap Land Cruiser, as well as adding a hydro assist hydraulic ram in the front, because with the 1-ton axles in the 42s, it's getting kind of hard to steer even around town, but especially in the rocks with my lockers on. I'm planning a trip to Rubicon by the end of the year, so if any of you guys are going to be there in the fall, I'd love to see you. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.